everybody, welcome to Kut'em Outdoors Tip Tuesday. This week's tip of the week is going to be covering short reed goose calls. I've got a couple inquiries about giving some tips on how to use a short reed goose call and for beginners and maybe some more intermediate stuff. The biggest thing that I can express to you is a lot of the videos and stuff on YouTube and online are kind of hard to watch and learn from. The number one tip I can give you for a short reed goose call, or any goose call, or a duck call for that matter, is to go out and find somebody who already knows how to call. They don't even have to know how to call that well, just a more experienced caller than you, and sit down with them for a while and learn from them, see what works for them and see how they learn. Try to find out how they learned. And watching a video 100 times online is not going to get you as far as having someone be able to listen and tell you what you might be doing wrong or what you might need to correct to help you progress further as a caller. The second most important thing, I think, that a lot of people don't do when they're calling is turning the call around. A lot of people blow into their call and they listen to the noise it's making, and they're not worried about anything else. They just blow into it, they hear the noise it's making, and they try to correct their hands or their air or blow into it a little bit different just based off of the noise that they hear coming out. Well, I can tell you right now, the noise that you're hearing is different than the noise everybody else is hearing. You're hearing it inside your head, and you're hearing it a little bit differently than it's actually sounding. So you might actually sound pretty good, and it just doesn't sound right to you. The other thing is a lot of people will hear the noise and try to correct it immediately by blowing a different way or moving their hands. The call is going to make the noise on its own. It's going to break over on its own. It's going to do everything that you need it to do all by itself. So if you get everything else down and you do everything else correctly, you will make goose noises out of your goose call. The biggest difference between a goose call and a duck call is any noise that you make out of a goose call, a goose makes that noise. So even if you mess up a little bit, that will at least sound somewhat like a goose. So messing up also stops people. If they're trying to call in geese in the field and they make a mistake, they stop. Don't stop. Just keep going. Obviously, if what you're doing is working and the geese are still coming in, just continue and try to fix whatever mistakes you made in the field back at your house. So turning the call around is number two in my book, is something that people should do, is because you're not blowing any noise out of the call, so you're not worried about the noise. You're more focused on the air that you're introducing, your lip placement, mouth placement, and your hand placement. The way I was taught and the way I learned was putting the call up to your mouth like a soda bottle or a water bottle, like you were taking a drink from a water bottle. Very simple. Every single time. If you do that 100 times, it sounds stupid, but if you keep putting your call up to your mouth the same way, because you don't think about it when you take a drink of water, but when you're putting your call up to your mouth for a goose call, you're thinking about it. So if you just get that down pat and you just keep doing that over and over and over, just like you're taking a drink of water, you're gonna get that out. So you're not thinking about that anymore. The next thing that people think about way too much is their hands. People are moving their hands around, trying to adjust their hands to make the sound correct. Well, I can tell you right now, every single goose call or goose sound, whether it be a comeback, a hail, a cluck, a lay down, you can do all of that with your hands completely off the call. You should be able to make any noise out of a goose call with no hand placement at all. The only thing your hands are going to do is give you the ability to sound like multiple geese, and add a little bit more realism, add that earthy tone to the goose call. So forget about your hands, turn the call around, and focus on your air placement, your mouth placement, your air introduction, and what you're doing with your hands. The next biggest thing would be to lay down. It sounds a little strange, but if you lay down on your living room floor or your basement floor or in your shed, wherever you want to practice, outside, laying down and practicing your call helps out tremendously. The reason that is because it forces you to use the correct air muscles. It forces you to not blow into the call like this. If your cheeks or lips are moving, you're blowing into the call incorrectly. When you lay down, you can't use the incorrect muscles. You're using the correct muscles, so it creates a muscle memory so that when you stand up or when you're in your layout blind or a pit blind or in a boat and you're calling those geese, you're already in tune with your muscles and know what muscles that you're supposed to be using. The next thing I can suggest is to slow down. A lot of people rush to make all kinds of noises and get down their competition call routine, or they hear their buddies make a cool noise out of their goose call, or they hear another hunter make a noise and they want to get online and figure out how to do that. All you need to learn how to do with a goose call is a honk. It's the simplest thing to do on a goose call, and everything else that you make with your goose call is just a part of a honk. It's either a honk or a part of a honk, either the beginning, the middle, or the end. So if you can learn how to honk on a goose call, which is the easiest part of goose calling, you can blow into a goose call because you got all the parts that you need right there within that honk. If you get home, you just bought a brand new goose call, you want to learn how to blow it, find somebody who knows how to blow it and have them come over and help you, because I think, in my personal opinion, watching videos is going to be a lot harder to learn and listening to somebody else tell you how to do it, but not listen to you back and help you with what you're doing wrong or doing right and you think you're doing wrong. A lot of people think that they sound bad, but actually don't. It's just what they're hearing. Another big misconception, in my opinion it's a misconception, is what to say into the call. A lot of people say to it or make some sort of word phrase. I don't do that at all. I just use air. I consider it like a musical instrument. You don't say words into musical instruments. So I think of it just like a musical instrument. You're blowing into it like a trumpet or a clarinet or a saxophone or something else like that. You need to blow into it almost exactly like a musical instrument. It has a reed inside it, just like a saxophone or a clarinet. It's going to make music. You need to stop focusing on too much of what word phrase to say into the call. Or once you lay down, you get your air introduction, your mouth placement, and forget about your hands. You should be able to make some sort of goosey sound out of the back end of the call. A lot of people also have questions about, they have taken their new goose call home and they took it apart and now they don't know how to put it back together, or they put it back together and now it sounds terrible. Well, every single goose call, every single short reed goose call is the exact same. They all have the exact same parts to them. They have the mouthpiece, the bell of the call, a tone channel, a wedge, and the mylar reed. Every single goose call has those parts for short reed goose calls. If you get home and it doesn't sound correct and you start fiddling with it and you take it apart and you have it all out on your kitchen table and you have no idea what to do with it now, it's a little intimidating to put it back together. Well, I'm going to do a quick rundown for you. If you have trouble with it and it still doesn't work, bring it to your local Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops or outdoor store where they sell goose or duck calls. I can guarantee you there's somebody there that can help you out and put it back together, and maybe even help you and give you some tips on how to blow into the call. The Mylar reed, all of them have bends to them. If you take it in between your finger and your thumb here and you bend it, every single time it's going to bend the exact same way. Every single time. So they all have a slight bend to them. So when you bend them, and it bends a certain way, that's the downside to your reed. That's the reed that touches the tone channel. That's the side that needs to go down towards the tone channel. Every single time you bend it, it's going to bend the exact same way. So that's the side that goes down. So if you have your tone channel, you're going to want to put the reed down on that. Now, for the inside of the tone channel, there's a top ridge to it on the inside. So when you have that top ridge on the inside of the tone channel, inside here, you want your Mylar reed to touch that and get as close to that as possible without rubbing or clicking at the end of it. So if it's right up against it and can move and doesn't click or rub, that's exactly where you want it. You want it as close to that as possible. Now on the tone channel, most tone channels, most, not all, have a downward slope to them. Where that starts and begins is where you want your wedge to end. So where the downward slope of the tone channel goes, your wedge needs to be there. So if you take your Mylar and you bend it and you know which side it needs to go down, slip that in there. And then slide it into the bell of the goose call. And it should look something like that. Now, you're going to have to, when you slide it in, it's going to move up and down. You might need to tap down the tone channel or tap down the wedge to get it exactly where it needs to be. But if you do those simple steps, you should be able to at least get it back together so that it looks right. It might not sound right, but if you, like I said, if you bring it to a local pro shop or outdoor store, you should be able to find somebody there that can help you out with making the sound. Again, thanks for tuning in to this week's Tip Tuesday. If you have any more questions about this or any other outdoor hunting or fishing questions, be sure to message us on Facebook and we'll be happy to help you out with those questions.